In this video, we will talk about one of the towering figures in personality psychology, notable for the audacity of his theorizing, the expansive scope of his empirical research, and his often controversial views. But the highlights of this video is his theory, which is the dimensions of personality. So later on, we will discuss it. So Hans Eysenck was born on March 4, 1916 in Berlin, and his mother was an actress and his father was a nightclub entertainer. So by the time that Nazi power rises in Germany, napagdesisyonan nilang lumipat sa England noong 1934 para mag-aral sa isang university doon sa London. So there, he received his PhD in 1914 while working at the college in the psychology department. So kasalukuyang nagaganap ang World War II noong nakagraduate siya. So he had been labeled a hostile alien, which means hindi siya legal citizen ng country na yon. So because of that, he was about to be imprisoned. So he was first unable to get work due to his situation, and given the lack of restrictions, Eysenck eventually found a job as a research psychologist at Mill Hill Hospital in North London in 1942. He created the psychology department at the Institute of Psychiatry after the war and served there until 1983 when he retired. Eysenck continued to study and write until his death in 1997. So he published more than 80 books and 1,600 articles on a wide range of subjects. So siya din ang founder and first editor ng isang prestigious journal, which is the Personality and Individual Differences. So before his death, Eysenck was the most quoted British psychologist in social science journals. And then, Eysenck planned to study physics at the University of London, pero hindi natuloy since sinabi sa kanya na kulang or wala siyang mga academic credentials na kailangan para doon. So he was so discouraged that he asked yung nasa university admin kung anong major ang pwede niyang i-take maliban sa physics na gusto niya. So I was told there was always psychology. So as a result, nag-enroll siya sa subject na yun, and the highly successful and prolific Eysenck was asked if he had ever regretted his professional choice more than 40 years later, and he said that it happened several times, but he was used to it. Eysenck spent the majority of his career conducting personality evaluation research at the University of London's Maudsley Hospital and Institute of Psychiatry. He agreed with Cato that personality is made up of qualities or factors that may be discovered using the factor analytic method. But Eysenck, on the other hand, was a critic of factor analysis in Cato's research, citing the technique's possible subjectivity as well as the difficulties in repeating Cato's conclusions. Although Eysenck applied factor analysis to discover personality traits, he supported it with personality tests and experimental research that look at a variety of variables. So many of the questionnaires used in their research were developed by Eysenck and his second wife, Sibyl. So the Eysenck Personality Inventory took 12 years of collaboration and 20-factor analysis to develop. So the outcome of their research is a three-dimensional personality theory, which is characterized as a combination of traits or factors. Hans Eysenck developed his theory using factor analysis and discovered three personality traits, which are the Psychiatrism, Extroversion, and Neuroticism. Each of Eysenck's factor has a bipolar dimension, meaning it has two sides. Eysenck thought that a person's score on these personality traits is influenced by biological elements such as cortical arousal and hormonal levels, as well as environmental ones such as learned behavior. So it's important to note that Eysenck was the one who gave the term psychoticism a different meaning. So it refers to specific and antisocial behaviors in his model. It's not a mental illness. Traits of Eysenck's personality dimensions. So under extroversion and introversion, we have sociable, meaning friendly and more engaged in interaction with other people. Next is lively, so energetic and full of life. Active, so it involves in physical effort or action and also parang energetic din. And next, assertive means confident. Sensation-seeking means thrill-seeking or excitement-seeking is the tendency to pursue new and different sensations, feelings, and experiences. We also have carefree, meaning you have no troubles or worries. Being carefree is feeling happy and breezy. Next, next is dominant or influential. And lastly, venturesome or willing to take risks or someone brave. So, under neuroticism and emotional stability, we have anxious, experiencing nervousness, worry. Next, we have depressed. Um, Down in spirit or value, they feel sadness and having a loss of interest, something like that. And next, we have guilt feelings. So it's a feeling of remorse brought on by a sense of responsibility for a wrongdoing. We also have low self-esteem or lack of confidence. Tense, a state of nervous tension. Irrational, deprived of normal mental clarity or sound judgment. Shy or reserved around other people. And moody, a person's emotions change unpredictably and often. So under psychoticism and impulse control, we have this aggressive. So it can refer to anything being physical or demonstrating force, but it can also refer to a forceful drive to complete a task. Cold. So next, cold, showing lack of interest in others. Egocentric, only concerned with oneself. And next is impersonal. They do not show any emotion about the person they are dealing with. And next is impulsive. They do things on the spur of the moment without giving them much thought. Next, we also have antisocial, which means avoiding the company of other people. Creative, so they has the ability to develop original ideas or imaginative. Lastly, we have tough-minded. Meron silang unsentimental attitude. Eysenck also did a lot of research into intelligence. So despite the fact that intelligence was not listed as a personality factor, he believed this one has a significant impact on personality. So he pointed out that someone with a high IQ of 120 is more likely to have a complex and multifaceted personality than someone with an IQ of 80. His findings also reveal that about 80% of human intellect is inherited, with only 20% resulting from social and environmental factors. So, people that are extroverted are more likely to engage in social activities. So, sila yung mga taong outgoing and feel more at ease in a group setting. So, they love being the center of attraction or attention, and usually sila yung may bigger social network of friends and contacts. So, extroversion is graded on a scale of high, extrovert, to low, or the introvert. So, extroversion, according to Eysenck, was linked to levels of brain activity or cortical excitement. Extroverts have lower levels of cerebral excitement, causing them to seek stimulation from outside sources. So, cortical arousal is the increases of wakefulness, vigilance, muscle tone, heart rate, and minute ventilation. So, introverts avoid stimuli that can cause them to become overly excited due to their greater levels of activation. So, it is proven na kapag ang isang tao ay may higher score sa EPI o yung Eysenck Personality Inventory for extroversion na tinatawag, those who score high have more positive emotions and be happier than those who score low. So, introverts are more sensitive to low-level stimuli and have lower pain thresholds than extroverts, according to research. For example, someone with a lower pain threshold might start feeling pain when only minimal pressure is applied to part of their body. Next is the emotional stability or neuroticism. And it was also postulated by Eysenck. And people with a high neuroticism score are more likely to be stressed and anxious. So they worry about relatively insignificant issues, exaggerate their meaning, and feel unable to cope with stressors. A person's viewpoint can be disproportionately negative if they focus on the bad aspects of situation rather than the positive aspects. They may be envious or jealous of others who, in their opinion, are in a better situation than they are. Neuroticism, according to Eysenck, is defined by perfectionism and dissatisfaction. So, on the other hand, a person with a low neuroticism score is more likely to be emotionally stable. So when we say emotionally stable, you have the ability to thrive in challenging situations, deal with hardship, and remain productive and capable. We're talking about people who in general feel more competent of dealing with stressful situations and choosing goals that are appropriate for their capabilities. So people with a low neuroticism score are more forgiving of others and remain cool in stressful situations. The brain areas that control the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system are more active in people who have a high level of neuroticism. The body's alarm system increases breathing rate, heart rate, blood supply to muscles, and adrenaline release in response to stressful or dangerous events. In neurotics, according to Eysenck, nag-overreact yung ating SNS or yung sympathetic nervous system kahit sa mga minor stressors lang. That's why nakaka-experience ito ng persistent hypersensitivity. So what is hypersensitivity? It means our nervous system responds longer and more deeply to external stimuli. So being highly sensitive to physical, by sound, touch, smell, sight, and or emotional stimuli, and the tendency to be easily overwhelmed by too much information. So we also have psychoticism. Psychoticism was a late addition to Hans Eysenck's personality theory. So ito yung pinaka-last. It was added to the list in 1976. This third personality dimension ranges from normality, or the low psychoticism, to high psychoticism. People with a higher psychoticism score are more prone to engage in risky or bad activity. So these individuals can also go against social norms and be driven by a desire for instant pleasure regardless of the consequences. So sabi dito, those who scored the highest in psychoticism had more authoritarian and controlling parents than those who scored low. Authoritarian parents, meaning my extremely strict parenting style. So parent tends to focus more on obedience, discipline, and control rather than nurturing their child. That's why may impact talaga ang childhood environment. Psychoticism, according to Eysenck, is impacted by biological variables and is linked to hormonal levels such as testosterone. As a result, the theory indicates that people may be more inclined to illegal action as they seek to satisfy their own desires while breaking social rules. But may positive associations din ang psychoticism according din kay Eysenck. So those individuals na may high psychoticism scores ay mas advanced daw ang creative abilities nila. Katulad nga ng sinabi ko kanina, according to Eysenck, psychoticism is linked to hormones like testosterone. That's why men tend to score higher on psychoticism over women. Extroversion and neuroticism have a higher heredity component than psychoticism, according to Eysenck, and traits and dimensions are primarily impacted by heredity. So, pero yung environmental and situational influences on personality tulad ng childhood family ties ay hindi naman may tatanging ma-influence din pero limited lang at hindi ganon ka-dominant. Eysenck's 3 personality traits have been discovered consistently in more than 35 countries including the United States, England, Australia, Japan, China, Nigeria, and Sweden, according to cross-cultural study. So the confirmation of the same 3 personality dimensions across cultures adds to the growing body of data supporting the relevance of genetic elements in shaping personality.